Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another one of my interviews. We are here. We are joined by a very special guest. He is a former WWF manager and also co host of the Bobby Heenan Show. He is no other than Jameson. And then we will also be joined by no other than his son, who is actor and comedian. He's played in Casey Undercover, Kevin Can't Wait, so much more. He also was known as a one-time member of the Wyatt family as Little Johnny. He is John DeShakmo. So I will get him on in here, and then we will start.
Blake, 2 seconds. I got to blow my nose. That's so typical of Jameson. Sorry about that. All right, I'm here. I can't see, though. How come I'm not hearing you all of a sudden? I can't hear you. I heard you. Now I can't hear you. And it even says everyone can hear me, which is cool, but I can't hear you.
Oh, because the mic.
Okay, now I just heard you. I wish I knew how to make this picture bigger. Can't do that. Yeah, I don't know. And just a couple corrections.
Yeah, I think there's. Yeah.
Well, no, my son's name is James. I'm John, and the show is called Kevin Can Wait, not Can't, but that's all right.
Oh, all right. Sorry about that.
No, that's all good. Now, how do I look to you? Like, I know old and tired, but am I centered? What can I do better over here? I don't know. You know, James is like my technical kind of guy. He sets me up on all my Zooms and stuff like that. I'm still in the 20th century.
Yeah.
Need to get out of that. Yeah, he must be like your age, a couple years older, maybe. James.
Well, I'm 15.
15? So I can't curse.
And he's 18.
So I can't curse then. All right, it's all good.
Well, I mean, you can do that because I've had many guests that.
No. I'm kidding. I'm not. It's not that important. I might slip, but nothing crazy. So cool that you're doing this at such a young age, and you're getting some big names.
Yeah, I am. I've got like Bull Buchanan before and many others.
And somebody's coming up that's big that I know, that I worked with.
Butterbean?
Yes. That's awesome. I followed that guy's whole career. I really did. I'm a total sports fan. Yeah, just impressed that you at your age are putting this all together. That's pretty cool.
Thank you. So would you like me to start with my questions?
Absolutely. Whenever you're ready, bud. I don't know how we're going to fill up 2 hours, but you go, boy.
I always have so many questions.
Come on. And you don't know me from, I mean, you weren't even born. You were, my God, maybe your parents weren't even born when I was there. But that's cool that you found me and you have some interest. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I know most of the wrestlers from like the old days and like the enhancement or talent that just were brought there. Yeah.
Yeah, I really think I was at a time where they were at their best in terms of the personalities that they had. All the wrestlers had gimmicks. Now a lot of the guys just use their name, and it's so much different. There was a lot more comedy back then, um, compared to now. But anyway, go
Mm-hmm.
ahead. Throw me a
Yeah.
question.
All right. When did you start doing wrestling, and what made you want to do it as like a manager?
Okay. Well, I never intended, I didn't seek out employment at the WWF. I know it's WWE now, but at the time,
Mm-hmm.
WWF. I was a comedian. I was doing stand up and I was in an improv show that Vince McMahon happened to, they booked out the whole place for his neighbor's wife's 30th birthday. And I was a big part of that show. And I know when I was in his room, there was 6 dining rooms. It was a dinner theater kind of improv show. And I know I recognized him when I was in there. And not a big wrestling fan at that time. I was already, I guess, 30. I think I was 30 or maybe 31. But I saw him, and when it's not like a play, when it's like an improv show, you bring the audience into it. So you interact with the audience. And I had him laughing like beet red, laughing. And I'm thinking to myself after the show, oh, he really enjoyed that show, what I did. I'm gonna go introduce myself. Who knows? I was an actor. Like, who knows? Maybe I'll get a job out of it. And I went and
Mm-hmm.
introduced myself. This was a Saturday night, and um, he wasn't real. He said, "Great show. I really enjoyed your performance," but I didn't get that warm and fuzzy feeling like this is going to lead to something. But sure enough,
Mm-hmm.
Monday morning. This was a Saturday night. Monday morning, the WWEFE um, reached out to the theater to say, how do we get in touch with the guy who played Jameson? And Vince wanted me. You know who Bobby Heenan is, I'm sure. Bobby
Mm-hmm.
was Bobby was the best voice the WWF ever had to this day. Was the best. And he was like a master at improvisation of coming up with jokes on the fly and in all the interviews and on camera. And they were looking for a guy who had good improv skills that could go toe to toe with Bobby. And that was the audition. Was basically it was no audition. They had me come in. Vince said, "Just stay in character. We're going to bring Bobby in. He doesn't know, um, he doesn't. Just be Jameson. Don't be John. Be Jameson." And it just clicked, and and the reason why they needed somebody strong that can go toe to toe with Bobby was they were doing a show called the Bobby Heenan Show. It only lasted 4 episodes. If you're not familiar with
Oh.
it, get familiar with that show. It's real. It's 4 episodes, but they're hilarious. And yeah, that's how it all started. I was a wrestling fan young, 8, 9, 10 years old. Um, but that was
Yeah.
way before, and Vince McMahon was a kid. Um, but later on. So, but I always looked at it as just like another acting gig. I didn't understand the the love and the total dedication wrestling fans had to wrestling, and it wasn't until years later that I said, "Wow, I got out of there with just thinking that was another acting job, and it wasn't. It became a much bigger part of my life 20 years
Hmm.
later,
Yeah, for sure.
because now I do these interviews and I go do signings, and had no clue at the time. And we're talking about I got out in 1993. That was when, or actually, I was out in 92. I came back and did a couple things for Vince, but basically 1992, that's over 30 years ago. And
Yeah.
I just, and it took 20 years for me to realize when they were looking for the guy who played Jameson, and I was like shocked. Who wants to know Jay? And they put me in the New England Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame. Don't know if you know Joe Bruin. He runs a great thing up there.
I don't think so.
Yeah. Oh, look him up, Joe Bruin. Um,
Yeah.
he's got contacts with a lot of wrestlers and might be able to help you out. I'll put a good word in,
All
but
right.
definitely check him out. All right, go ahead. Next.
So you said you watched wrestling as a kid. Who was your favorite
Oh my
when you
God,
were?
Mil Mascaras. Um, I don't know if you know that name, but
Yep.
he was like an amateur wrestler. Um, I think he, for Mexico maybe. But I was a fan of wrestling. I wrestled in high school. Um, but even at 10, I was a fan of that type of wrestling. And he brought that element to like really good wrestling moves. He was so athletic. And I really appreciated him. And I loved George the Animal Steel, who was there, and Chief Jay Strongbow was there. I'm talking about like the late 60s. Um,
Wow.
yeah, like when I was, 10, 11, that age. And then,
Yeah.
I was such a huge sports fan. I kind of left the wrestling world, got into boxing and football and baseball and basketball. And maybe wrestling was just because it was, you kind of knew who was going to win in those days. Probably today too, although um,
Hmm.
it was really hard to get it to in those days in the late 60s to get a match, to see a match on television that was big time championship. You don't know who's going to win. There's no, it was all the stars against the jobbers, they called them. And you knew who was going to win. And I kind of lost interest at that point, um, as I got older. But
Yeah,
now I don't watch wrestling, but have such an appreciation for that industry and what good people there are working it and good people there are watching it and supporting it. And that's cool to me.
for sure. Who were your wrestling trainers if you had any, or did you just get into the business?
I didn't wrestle. They beat the crap
Yeah.
out of me. I was in really good shape, tone, muscular, um, had some experience in gymnastics and wrestling and boxing. So I could take a punch. So they threw me around like a rag doll. But I did have to get licensed, but I never had any wrestling training other than, freestyle, um, collegiate, have Olympic style wrestling where it's for real, like it's
Yeah.
points. You're not punching anybody in the face.
Mhm. Was there anybody that inspired you wrestling wise when you were there to
Yeah.
keep going?
Bobby Heenan, big time. Um, even Mean Gene Okerlund was so different from his on camera persona in real life. And the guys that, um, inspired me, not really, I was never looking to be a wrestler. So it's hard to say, but there were personalities that I really appreciated what they did when they were on screen, when they were like Mr. Perfect was a total pro. He was funny. And he was a great athlete. He was, yeah, he came from that amateur wrestling background. He was impressive. Loved the $1 Million Man and Sherry when they were together. They great gimmick and two really sweet people. So that always impressed me in terms of how different these guys were on stage and off stage.
Hmm. Who would you say has been like the stiffest wrestler that you've seen that the Bushwhackers went against or that you got beat up by?
Well, I was only in the ring a couple times. The last time was the Royal Rumble in 1992. And it was the Bushwhackers against the Beverly Brothers, and their manager was the Genius. And we got into it. Not, Jameson couldn't get into it with anybody, but I mean, he smacked me, and then I kicked him out of the ring, um, and the Beverly Brothers were another couple of really talented, athletic guys. So that was the big. When I was their manager, that was only for a year, and that was
Hmm.
the big showdown from that year. They set up the rivalry at all those TV dates, all those tours we did, and culminating at the Royal Rumble. So those were the guys, the Beverly Brothers.
Yeah. I would have loved to see that, them three versus you three.
Oh my God, go Google. It's a preliminary match. It's before, the Royal Rumble. One guy, the last guy standing wins, but they had a couple of preliminary matches, and we were one of those. But pretty funny, pretty fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bobby Heenan, and I think Gorilla were the commentators. There's a lot of funny stuff from my recollection.
Oh wow, okay. Yeah. Were you ever in school or amateur wrestling as a kid?
Yes, um, I was from. Well, I actually didn't go out until I they dragged me in halfway through my freshman year, and then I wrestled from then on. But I nothing younger than that.
Yeah. What did you consider to be your weakness and then strengths in the wrestling business?
Well, my weakness was that I didn't live the life the guys I was working with lived, having to go through, wrestling school, like all and the injuries that they would get. And so my weakness was that, I was an outsider. I was an actor that they brought in. Um, so I didn't have that experience. And the other weakness was not understanding how great wrestling fans are at the time I was working is another
Mhm.
big weakness.
Yeah. Was it hard traveling from show to show, and what was the worst thing about traveling?
Oh my God, I was not a good flyer. Um, you know, I was hoping I could drive to when they did put me on the road. But I was forced to fly if I wanted to stay employed. Um, so, you know, that was it. I mean, the touring I wasn't really good with just because I was looking at it, like I said, 5 times already, as an acting job. When they put me on the
Hmm.
road and I had to go city to city to city, um, I wasn't able to do auditions back in New York because I was obligated by contract to the WWF. So that was flying and just not being able to continue my acting career beyond the wrestling world.
Hmm. Who was? What was the first time you appeared on screen, and how did it feel going into your first on screen as a manager?
Oh, as a manager, because I was there like a year and a half before they made me a manager. They made me a manager because they were replacing the show that I was on called Monday Night Primetime with Monday Night Raw. And Raw was shot only in arenas. There was no more studio in Stamford. I mean, they still had it, but they weren't shooting anything out of there. The first year and a half I was there, I shot at the studio. It was great. I would go in, we would shoot 3 shows at a time. Um,
Oh,
so I'd go in every 3 weeks. When they canceled that show, they had to put me in the ring. So they said, "What can we? Let's make him a manager." Um, and that was, I think, what was the first tour I did? It was either upstate New York or New England. And then they started flying me around, and that was really not good with me. But you got to do what you got to do.
yeah. What outcome did you expect to see from the crowd when you went into the first arena? Because you were new and much people probably didn't
Yeah,
know you.
right. I was, I was like, wow, this is fun. I mean, because I would up until that point, I was a plant in the audience of the studio show. So it was a studio, and I would interact with the people in the audience. But this was totally different vibe. This was people, like really animated compared to the studio show, which was the audience was fairly subdued. Nobody was yelling out things. Nobody was. Um, so I was a little bit surprised by how aggressive the fans were toward what was going on in the ring when I first went out as a manager.
Yeah. If you could go back in time and wrestle and or manage anyone that has passed away, who would that be?
Well, the Bushwhackers, Butch just passed this year. Um, but I already managed them. Um, I would love to have managed um, $1 Million Man and Sherry, um, or Mr.
Mm.
Perfect. But they were heels, and Jameson was not a heel. He was all the heels took pleasure in beating me up, or just verbally or physically. So who was a good
Yeah.
guy that I would have? I did a bit with Bret Hart, which was great. And
Oh,
so, yeah. So me on prime time, he gives me his sunglasses. There's a funny moment in his dressing room. Um, so maybe Bret Hart. And I never worked a match but I worked a primetime episode with Hulk Hogan, and he really appreciated what I did, on camera, and was always sought me out when we were on the road. Where's Jameson? Where's he's driving with us tonight. He's coming with us. Like, it was pretty cool. Had a really good relationship with him.
yeah, that was cool. If you could, who would have been your like top dream opponent if you were in the ring?
Um, well, I want to say the Nasty Boys, because they were
Ooh,
really, I did not, I'm talking about off camera. They were nasty. They were just not good guys. Um, so I would have liked to have been in a real match uh, with them. But as a manager, I'm gonna say the Legion of Doom. Those guys were great. They really sold it. They were and good athletes. Um, so that would have been, yeah. I would say they impressed me.
yeah. Talking about the Nasty Boys, I feel like you'd actually fit in perfect as a manager, though,
Yeah, if I
for
turned
them.
heel. You know who else was great that I would love to have managed, and he wasn't a
Yeah.
heel. Hacksaw, Jim Duggan.
Ooh, yeah,
He,
that would have been good.
he was great on camera too. He was right up there with Mr. Perfect as far as personality and selling it. And I'll tell you another guy that was really sold it for me was IRS. Um, Mike Rotundo was he played a character like a tax man. He came in a suit, shirt and tie, briefcase.
Yeah,
Um, he sold it. He's such a nice guy off camera, but he played a real nasty guy, a real, a real good heel.
yep. Who was your three top favorite guys in the backstage that you got to interact with or be
Uh,
with?
Definitely Bobby Heenan. Um, Mean Gene is a lot of fun. Um, there's a lot of. Um, oh, had a great time even on the road with the Brooklyn Brawler. Was a great guy. We were
Ooh,
similar backgrounds growing up. He was Steve Lombardi. His name is good guy.
mhm.
Um, yeah, and probably spent more time with him on the road than anybody else. Maybe Sensational Sherry Martel. Spent a lot of time with her too. Um, but yeah, there you go. There's 4, 5. I don't know.
Yeah. Did you usually get along or become friends with most of the opponents for like the bushwhackers or like
Yeah,
people?
yeah. For the most part, I mean, um, uh, you know, the yeah. I think everybody was a bit surprised. They Most of them first time they saw me was on TV.
Hmm.
They weren't in the studio when I was doing my stuff, and I think everybody was a little bit shocked about who I was in real life compared to my character. Like he was so pathetic, Jameson, and I was like in really good shape, and um, they would be like, "What? That's you're Jameson?" Yeah, people never recognize me. I could do my on the road. I could go out and do my bit in the ring, outside the ring, as a manager, and then when my match was over, go in and shower and come out in the audience. And nobody knew it was me. It was just that dramatic a difference. And I think I earned a lot of respect from the guys that I was able to do that. They were all shocked to see who this pathetic nerd was in real life. So yeah, I don't know if I answered your question, but there it is.
Yeah, it did. And also, I heard that Vince McMahon didn't know who you were when you came back for James
He
segment.
didn't know. He didn't know who I was. He was kneeling down, and that was a big deal. What they had James do, like I had nothing to do with James getting that gig. His agent, WWF, WWE called James' agent and said, "We want your best 8 to 10 year old boy." And and they have literally hundreds. It's the biggest talent agency in New York City for kids. And James was a big fish in a big pond. He was, their biggest earner. He was killing it. And they called us to go do it. And that's how he got it. But when I brought him there, and Vince gets down on one knee, introduces himself, and he starts explaining to him what he's going to be doing. And then he looks up at me. He looks up at me because he's kneeling. And he goes, "You must be the dad." And I said, "Vince, you don't recognize me?" And he goes, "Wow, you look familiar." And I just made the Jameson face, which was, was like, and he's like, "Oh my God." And big bear hug and said, "Oh my God, I can't believe I gotta take you into the truck, where all the producers sit doing all the um there's some people that are still here from when you were here." So yeah, that was a big kick for me. Um
Yeah.
Seeing him again and his reaction to seeing me for the first time. And back then that had to be 20 at least 20 years more, 22 years since I saw him.
Wow, that's cool. If you could make a Survivor Series match, including you as the manager, but four wrestlers that you got to choose for your team, who would you choose?
Mm. Dead or alive or just alive? Can they be dead that I'm
Um,
choosing?
yeah.
Okay. I would do Andre, Mr. Perfect, um, maybe Hulk,
Yeah,
and I would say Ted DiBiase, $1 Million Man.
that's a good
And
team.
that'd be just because of who you know, well, a little bit
Yeah.
it's winning and a little bit it's guys I like.
Mm-hmm. And I wonder how Andre and Hulk would get together because they had a quite a bit of
Oh,
feud there.
yeah. It was the first time anybody ever got Andre
Yeah.
up over their,
Yeah.
over their shoulders. Yeah.
Would you rather be in a street fight fight or death match?
Oof. I would say street fight. Yeah, and I don't know all the ins and outs of both of those, but I just how they sound. And I was a bouncer, so I for a number of years, right into my 50s, so I know how to fight, boxing, wrestling, all that stuff. So it just street fight sounds safer than death match. And
Yeah.
that's where I'm going.
Mm-hmm. Would you rather be in a blindfolded match, handcuffed to your opponent, or a dog collar?
I don't. Again, I'm not being a wrestler. I don't know how to answer that, and don't know how interesting my answer would be, because these questions are designed for wrestlers, guys that are. So I don't know. I guess I don't know what the dog collar is, so I would say blindfolded, tied to my. Just because I don't know what the other one is.
Yeah. Dog collar is basically so it's like a dog collar around the neck, and then with a
Huh?
chain, and then it's hooked up to the opponent, and then you guys
Oh,
wrestle with that.
with chains connected at the neck.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, I would say. Yeah, I'll go for the blindfold.
Yeah.
I don't want to see what me
Is there
getting
anything?
killed. So that so the blindfold, I,
Yeah.
I'll feel it. I just won't see it happening. Hey, could we take like a minute and a half break? Is
Yeah,
that
for
possible?
sure.
Okay. All right.
Because I need to go tell my dog to be quiet too.
Okay. Go ahead. All right. I'm back. Here I am. Oh, you go, boy. I'm taking you with me.
All right, I'm back.
All right. I'm back too, but I'm taking you outside with me. Um.
All right.
Yeah. What did I do with that? 1 second. Go ahead. Ask me a question while I'm walking around here.
All right. Is James gonna be there soon?
Oh, I don't know, brother. He went out last night. He went to a party. Um, and being 18 and all that, he's probably gonna need a little more time to wake up. How are we doing on time? Wow, we're only 40 minutes in. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I gotta think this is kind of getting close to the end. No, it's not gonna be
Um,
2 hours, right? Can you?
I
Oh,
I do have a lot of questions.
really? We're not even halfway yet. All
Yeah.
right. Well, let's see how it. Let's keep going.
All right. Is there any piece of merch that you have or had that has sold out pretty quickly?
When yeah, didn't sell out yet, but close. I think I got 6 left. My original promo photos from 1991, I think. WWE, WWF insignia. I have that. I got some great stuff that I'm gonna sell. I have my original contract signed by Vince McMahon.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's a goodie. I have 2 pair of shoes that I wore on the road. Um, one of them I wore at the Royal Rumble.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
I have my check stub from the '92 Royal Rumble um, that I would sign for somebody. I have, um, yeah, I have those original photos. Um, I have, oh my God, I have Bobby Heenan's book signed over to me.
Oh,
He
wow.
signed it to me. My son has the original mask that he wore for that when he was with the
Wow.
Wyatt family, signed by Bray and 4 other wrestlers. Um,
Oh, wow.
yeah, and he's got a belt.
Was it Rowan Luke Harper?
It was Bray and I think Rowan, but also Kofi Kingston um, signed it, and well, I don't know. He knows better than me, and he's also got a belt. Not a nice belt, a fake belt, like a foam belt, but signed by
Yeah.
Bobby Heenan, King Kong Bundy, Ted DiBiase, Danny Davis, uh, which is cool. There's a connection there because I worked with Bobby as his co-host, and I was on the cover of the WWF magazine. It was the Christmas issue, and it's got King Kong Bundy pulling me out of a stocking, an oversized stocking, and Ted DiBiase in the background. So we got all 3 of those guys to sign it. Um,
Wow.
oh, and I have all my original videos. Everything I did, they always send you, and they're all VHS. But I got those with the letter saying, "Jameson, nice job. Here's the tape of the show." Um, yeah, I got a letter from uh, JJ Dillon releasing me the original letter from my contract. Um, I got some other good stuff. I have a doll. A fan made me a doll. Not a doll. They
Oh,
say
wow.
it's an action figure, but for Jameson, it's a doll. He didn't see much action. Um, yeah. What else? I got really I such
The
great
original
photos,
suits?
huh?
The
Yeah,
original
the
suits
original.
do you still have?
No, I don't. I sold all of them. Those sold. I did one of those Facebook. What do they call those?
Oh,
Signings.
live virtual signings?
Virtual signing. They bought everything I was wearing, and I was eating a candy bar, and somebody said how much for Jameson to sign the wrapper of the candy bar he's eating. They bid on it. It was set. They got $17 for it, which is I think crazy.
Wow. Is there any time a fan has seen you in public and got super surprised and or excited?
Yeah. But again, nobody really recognized me. The one time somebody recognized me, I was at a Yankee game and the game was over. And, 50,000 people, you're walking like, 5-inch steps because there's somebody right in front of you. And this woman was going by me and we were like stopped, trying to get out of the stadium. And she goes, "Oh my God, Jameson." And I was shocked that she knew who I was because nobody ever recognized me out of the ring. But when people, still to this day, it happens all the time where, like, James just started dating this girl. Her father's a huge wrestling fan. When he found out I was Jameson, he was like, "You got to get me a couple signed pictures." It's like that's what it is. There's so many people that know who I am that I never had any clue. That guys that are now like in their mid 40s and up that were big wrestling fans as kids know who I am. That's a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah. Who is your favorite comedian, act character, or actress, and favorite comedian show?
Um, Not wrestling. Wrestling? Non-wrestling you're talking about.
No, like, yep.
Yeah, like regular TV, All in the Family, um, which was on in the 70s for like 10 years. Um, that's my favorite funny show. And the funniest, well, I think the funniest man that ever lived is Curly from the Three Stooges. Um, you got
Hmm.
to familiarize yourself with him. He's just priceless. Funniest man ever to
Yeah.
walk this earth. All right, I'm going back
Yep.
inside. I'm taking you with me.
All right.
I had, I had a smoke.
I'll give
Sorry.
you a second to settle. It's fine. I'll give you a second to settle in.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm sitting down right now.
All
So
right.
go ahead.
What is generally your favorite music to listen to in your spare time?
Woofa. Um, I would say reggae. Bob Marley, Peter Tosh,
Okay.
Gregory Isaac. But I love blues and jazz and rock. I love rock. But I don't like, you know, very few rock songs in the last 30 years that I'm a fan of that band. All the rock music that I listen to is like, believe it or not, 60s and 70s, which is a long
Yeah.
time.
If a
Sorry.
movie was made about, it's fine. If a movie was made about your career, who would you want to play you?
Oh my God. Wow. Yeah, well, it'd have to be somebody a lot younger than me if you're going to go back to when I was in
Yeah.
wrestling. Um, I would say, wow, I don't know that many actors that early 30s, basically when I was there. Um, there's a kid, really good actor, um, hasn't done much lately, but as a child actor, he was really good. He was on a Disney show. He's I think could pull it off. Jake, what was the show with Selena Gomez? Disney show. The hell was it? I forget. I don't know what. I don't. I just don't know enough actors that age that could. Because you got to be able to pull off Jameson, but also, a guy who was aggressive. Go ahead.
Was it Wizards of Waverly Place?
Yes,
Jake
yes.
T. Austin.
Jake, what's his name?
Jake T. Austin.
Yes, that's him. Jakey, I love that kid. Yeah, he's got to be, I would say, late 20s now, if not 30. But yeah, he would. Yeah, that's good that you found that. Good boy.
Yeah, it says he's 28.
Yeah, that makes sense.
If you had to choose the stipulation for the Bushwhackers match, what stipulation would you use?
What do you mean by stipulation?
Like different type of matches. Like there's TLC ladder matches, steel cages.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the steel cage match. That would have been fun. Steel cage match, the Bushwhackers. Yeah, sure. See them. I mean, because they were like the Three Stooges. Yeah, trying to help each other over the I could see some funny stuff happening there. Yeah, definitely steel cage match. I'd go with that.
Mm-hmm. Out of all the wrestling shows you've got to take part of, which one has been your favorite?
I would say there was one where the Berserker. Do you know who that is? The Berserker. You ever hear that name?
Yes.
Okay, where the Berserker threw me off the roof of the studio, and I was tied to
wow.
They were trying to burn me at the stake. Bobby Heenan set up this. He was a Viking, the Berserker. So it was like this Viking ritual where you burn somebody alive at the stake, and they couldn't light the hay. They had me tied to the stake, and so they took me up on the roof, and he threw me off the roof into a dumpster. That saved my life, as the story went.
Wow. With your short time in the WWF as a manager, do you think Jameson could have done more in the WWF?
It's interesting you say that. I didn't think I could as a manager. I just wasn't a ring character. I was more of I was a comedian. I pulled off a lot of antics standing outside the ring while they were fighting and all that. But when I didn't like touring, and I let them know that, and that I was missing a lot of auditions, and although they were very good to me. So what I did was I grabbed my friend. We made a video. It's hilarious of Jameson wanting to get revenge on the genius from the way he roughed me up at the Royal Rumble, joins a gym and works out.
Yeah.
It's freaking hilarious. It's the funniest thing I ever did as Jameson. Funnier than anything I ever did at the WWF. And, he's so crazed. He's so not with it, that it's just funny him trying to use the app, you go into a gym now, all the machines, and he didn't know what he was doing, and it was just really, really funny. And I pitched it to WWF to see if we could shoot this. I didn't want them to air what I shot. It's just
Yeah.
I shot it to give them an idea of how funny this would be and keep Jameson's story alive. But it would allow me to stay under contract without having to tour, without having to go out on the road. And that was my goal because I was getting some other acting work that I wanted to pursue. I was doing a lot of New York theater, New York City, off Broadway stuff, and felt like that was holding me back from my career being in the WWF. So I wanted to sell them something that give them an idea of how to still use me without me having to back out of my contract.
Yeah. Do you know, was there a reason your career was cut so short in the WWF? Do you know any reason of that?
I would say it was just a mutual that me not wanting to tour and them not uh, having any other use for me other than touring was kind of why things, and it ended on such a nice note. I mean, there was they they probably overpaid me to get out of the contract. But and I had no idea what I was really walking away from in terms of the popularity. But I really wanted to get into movies and TV and stuff away from having to tour.
Yep. At the WWE Raw 25th anniversary, we saw huge surprise names like Harvey Whippleman, Brooklyn Brawler, Brother Love, Mean Gene Okerlund. Did you ever get asked to make an appearance at that?
I never did. I did not. When was that? 25? How long ago was that?
That was in 2019, I'm pretty sure. Or
Wow.
2018.
Yeah. Nope.
Because it was a surprise to see Harvey Whippleman there. So
I mean, so many times there was talk of, having us maybe not fight, but just having us as, conflicting characters.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that would have been so good. Harvey Whippleman versus Jameson.
Yeah, that would have been great. I'd have kicked his ass.
Yeah. If you got asked now in your life/career to return to the WWE to be as a manager, backstage worker, on-screen personnel, trainer, or anything else, would you take up that offer?
I would, as long as I didn't have to travel. Like if there was stuff that they could shoot in Stamford, where we shot my first year and a half there, I would definitely do it. I just wouldn't, I would make an occasional trip, maybe once or twice a year to some event or something, but not wanting to be that road warrior again, where you're, where you're traveling 40 weeks of the year.
Yeah. Like they could bring you for like a Legends Night and then like Royal Rumble.
Yeah, absolutely.
What has been the funniest thing a fan has said to you before?
Well, fans all the time remind me of lines I had, and it was all improv. Nobody gave me lines to read. It was all So they'll come up to me and they'll repeat a line I had, and I forgotten it. But one of the funniest moments was I was doing it. I think it was the weekend they inducted me into the New England Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame, and there was a girl there who said she was in the audience for one of those. It was one of those times where we were setting up the match between the Bushwhackers and the Beverly Brothers, and where the Beverly Brothers were fighting somebody else, and I'm in the audience, and I'm bad mouthing them, and they come out of the ring and they pull me out of the audience and they rip my jacket, my suit jacket, and a piece of the jacket, the suit jacket, ripped. A girl that was sitting like in the same row as me had that piece of fabric, and she had it for over 20 years. Well, maybe no, about 18 years. And she brought it to this show that I was doing signings and showed it to me, and I signed it. And so that was cool and funny that, she, yeah, I mean, I had some good moments where I had some really funny lines. I used to break Bobby Heenan, where we'd have to stop shooting and retake it because he hated his character hates my character. So if I make him laugh, that's not good for the audience. They want to see us going like this, but I would make him laugh a lot. Well, we had to retake that segment.
Mm-hmm. Was there ever a time you ever broken out of your wrestling persona?
Not on camera. I mean, that was one of the things. I was like a serious actor when it came to never breaking character. That you, there was a time that if you could get your hands on Macho Man's bachelor party, it was an episode of Primetime, of Monday Night Primetime, and there was a scene where they had the stripper. And the Bushwhackers, and this was before I was working with the Bushwhackers, they brought out a 6-foot hero with raw fish. Real raw fish was the sandwich. And as they were carrying it, one of the fish fell out of the sandwich, fell on the floor. So this stripper finishes, and, we're all supposed to be, woohoo, and she's going off stage. And I pick up the fish, and I go, lady, you forgot your fish. And I threw it, and everybody broke up laughing. We had to shoot her exit all over again because everybody broke up laughing. But yeah, I would do that all the time. I really enjoyed cracking people up when I wasn't supposed to, where we had to reshoot something. I took a lot of pride in that.
Yeah. What has been a best fan compliment you've received either at like a show or convention or signing or anything?
Wow. First of all, that girl bringing that, I mean, she was like 10 years old, bringing that piece of suit. She was like 30 when that meant a lot to me that she saved it all those years. And just people coming up and telling me how they identified with, because they were a nerd growing up and they identified with my character. That always makes me feel good. Yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah. Which wrestler has given you the best advice and or compliment?
I think Mr. Perfect. When he first saw me without my shirt on, like in the dressing room, he brought me around. Do you see this? You see this guy? This is Jameson. You believed it? Like he was really couldn't believe the difference between John and Jameson. Just thought it was the best acting job he ever saw. Stop it. Sorry.
That's fine. Yeah.
All right.
Was there ever a time you what? Oh, I thought you
I
said something. Sorry.
no no
Was there was there ever a time in your career you ever got kicked out of a wrestling show you were wrestling at?
no never.
Was there ever a time you hit a fan or wanted to?
You know, the fans really, they were so like when the Beverly Brothers, the reason why they ripped my jacket was because the fans were holding on to me, wouldn't let, the bit was for them to pull me out of the audience and throw me in the ring. And it never got there because the fans were hanging on to me. They were like protecting me from these guys. No, I never hit a fan or wanted to.
Yeah. What would you have done if a crowd member came out of the crowd and attacked you?
I would, just like I've been taught, I would aim for the nose.
Yep. If you could wrestle or like manage, I meant for any wrestling company right now, what company would that be?
You know, I would have to say WWE just out of loyalty. I mean, I never worked for another wrestling company. I was offered to go to work for WCW back in like 94.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But they're in Atlanta and I'm not traveling. So,
Oh,
um,
yeah.
yeah. So that's how that, but I would say WWE. I mean, still know a lot of people that work there that were peons when I was there that are now producers and stuff. So it's pretty cool.
Yep. Would you rather join DX, NWO, APA, or BWO?
I don't know enough about any of them to, you know, tell you what. Whoever's closest to New York, I guess I would say.
If you could have any band or singer perform your theme song, who would you want that to be?
Oh my God. If I could include dead people, I would say Bob Marley. Um, but if we're just using live people, I'm going to give you a name you probably never heard of. This girl she's already at 17 years old, the GOAT. Best voice I've ever heard in my 60 plus years on this earth. Her name is Angelina Jordan. Um, Google her and should just blow your mind. She does a cover for at 9 years old of I Put a Spell on You, which is an old jazz tune. Where you'd swear if you closed your eyes, if you weren't watching her, she's 9 now, you'd swear you were listening to like a 50-year-old woman who smoked cigarettes and drank whiskey her whole life. She's unbelievable. This kid she's the GOAT already. Anyway, yeah, that's who I would pick.
Yeah. It says she's 17 now.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
she's 17 now. But you watch that at 9, or you watch she did on America's Got Talent, Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen. You at 13,
Oh,
you watch that one, you'll be like, oh my God, I can't believe she's 13. She sounds like she's been sound. She won Norway's Got Talent at age 7. At age 7,
wow.
she sounded like singing jazz songs. Crazy, crazy talent. Most talented, most crazily talented human being I've ever come across. Just crazy.
Yeah. What has been the least favorite wrestling move, or like, I don't know how to put it, like the wrestler has done to you? What has been the least favorite that has happened?
Well, when the Genius smacked me in the face and actually cut the inside of my mouth at the Royal Rumble.
Mm.
That, or when the Berserker, by accident, while I was tied to that stake, dropped me on my head. I was tied up. I
Ooh,
couldn't break. He dropped me. And the first thing that hit the floor was my head. That was probably worse. Yeah.
yeah. What has been the hardest thing you have tried to do to an opponent or on show before?
I never, I don't think that question is good for my character. There was never anything hard that I had to do or, um,
Yeah.
yeah. Hey, you got to give me another minute. 1 second.
All right. Yeah, no worries.
All right, I'm back. I'm back. All right.
All right. What usually got you hyped for a segment that you were going to be in or managing spot?
Um, it probably wouldn't be, well, what got me psyched was be able to think of what I could do to make the spot funny. Um, which probably happened more in the studio show than it did when I was at the matches. But just reading the description of how the show was going to go and saying, "Oh, I could do this. Oh, I could do that." I mean, that's what where they were giving me a funny setup that I could, just let loose. Was recognizing that when they gave me, but that really didn't happen much in the when I was the manager. Um,
Yeah.
I was just the tag along that they hope I would throw a funny line in every once in a while or do something funny outside the ring, which I did. I tried to do a lot of.
Yep. What was your favorite thing to do after all your managing or work?
Oh, when I finished, what?
Yeah, and like went backstage and you were done with your spot that you were
Oh
supposed to
my
do.
God, I would try to sneak back to the hotel because I just wanted to chill, watch TV. Chill. These guys were partiers. They wanted to go to the bars, the strip clubs. Go party up, and um, I wasn't. I was a pothead. I wasn't a. Uh, I didn't do drugs or drink heavily or anything. So I was usually trying to figure out a way to get when the show ended to get back to the hotel without anybody noticing. Because I'm telling you, Vince and a couple of times with Vince and Hulk were arguing over, no, Jameson's coming with me. No, Jameson's coming with me. And like I was the comic relief for the ride. But yeah, nah. I what I like to do after a show is get back to my hotel, have a meal, watch Monday Night Football or whatever night of the week it was, watch something on TV. I was not looking to wake up with a hangover or, be out all night or anything like that. I was bored.
Yeah. What has been your favorite venue you've got to work in?
I would say the Knickerbocker Arena in Albany, because there were 20,000 people there, all chanting Jameson, which I have on tape, which is great. Which is,
Oh, wow.
yeah, that was the Royal Rumble. So, yeah.
Yeah, that must have felt good.
Really good. Really good.
Yeah. Was there ever a moment you gotten embarrassed due to like a mistake or something?
Well, the one moment I can remember was when my very first job there was the Bobby Heenan show, being the co-host with Bobby Heenan. And Bobby was always threatening my character. And I would be like, Vince, like, because he was going to hit me or something. And as soon as we did that, the producer came right out and said, listen, don't mention Vince. It's, we don't play like Vince owns the WWF. Vince is just another character. So I kind of, like don't blow his cover. In the meantime, I'm thinking to myself, everybody in the world knows Vince McMahon owns WWF. But okay. But that was the one time I probably got not yelled at. I mean, but a little bit like, don't say that. So, and there was another time. We were doing this promo for Spanish television and Telemundo or, Lucha Libre. And this, they had the Spanish announcer in front of me and the Bushwhackers. And he's talking really fast in Spanish and I yell out, punto, which means period, punto. And then but they thought I said the bad word, which is, you know what I'm going. Mm-hmm. And they said, you can't say that. I said, punto is period. Like somebody says something, exciting and you go, period. But they thought I said puta. So but I can't really think of a time I got embarrassed or anything like that, except for those two times.
Yeah. What has been the scariest / most dangerous incident in your managing or working career?
I think the time I fell on my head, which was serious. I mean, it was like not just like a walking into a wall. It was he dropped me backwards, and the first thing that hit the floor was the top of my head. That was serious and scary. Seeing some of these guys get hurt was scary. There was, who was it? Oh my God, Vince McMahon got hurt. That was scary. Just we were in a bar and the guys moving tables and they were doing each other's finishing moves, and Vince was a little rambunctious that night, and I think he might have separated his shoulder that night. But seeing these big guys, not in a wrestling, in a ring or with mats, pads, or anything like that, but wrestling in a bar, that was kind of scary to me. It's why I wanted to get back to the hotel and watch Monday Night Football.
Yeah, because you didn't know what was going to happen next.
Oh my God, it was crazy.
Yeah. What has been the worst you have gotten injured? Would it be that head drop
Yeah,
out?
and the only other time was when, and that was no big deal, when the genius slapped me. I was actually bleeding on the inside of my mouth, but that's nothing. They've beaten the shit out of me that I didn't get hurt. Sensational Sherry, there's a great bit. There's an episode of Primetime where I sneak into the $1 Million Man's dressing room and I see the belt and I try it on, the $1 Million belt, and it gets stuck. And the show is starting, and I gotta hide that I can't get it off. And by the end of the show, they're going through the audience, Sherry and Ted, with a metal detector, and they find it on me, and she pulls me up out of my seat by my hair, and she's like beating the crap out of me. But it didn't hurt. It was funny. It was fun. Yeah, she's one that we lost way too young. She was great,
Yeah.
Sherry. Yeah, she was awesome.
Mm. If back in the day when you were doing this, if you got told you couldn't medically do the physical stuff that you were doing for the rest of your life, what would you do?
Yeah, it would depend, I guess, on how serious it was. If it was something where I couldn't get beat up in the wrestling ring, I'd be okay with that if I could still do other things related to my career. I was never. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I would just move on. I don't think it would. I wasn't that guy that just wanted to be a wrestler his whole life.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Do you feel like you are worthy enough to be part of like a WWE Hall of Fame or?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, would I love it? Yeah. Have fans? Oh, there's a good one. You asked a question about. I've had fans post on my Facebook page, tell me in person, they got to put you in the Hall of Fame. They got to put but I don't, I think there's so many people that deserve it. Again, I didn't have to go through wrestling schools. I wasn't applying for a job to work for the WWE. They came to me. Yeah. But do I think I gave them their money's worth? Absolutely. I think what Vince wanted me for, I exceeded what he hoped for, in terms of being popular and funny and stuff. Yeah. Just not Hall of Fame worthy.
Yeah. Who are 5 wrestlers you would put into the WWE Hall of Fame that are not in there yet that you think deserve it?
See, I don't know who's in and who's out. Definitely Kurt Angle, Mr. Perfect, if he's not in it.
Yeah.
Ted, Sherry, Hacksaw. I don't know if any of these guys are in. The Bushwhackers, definitely. I think they're in it, though.
Yeah, they're in it. Yep. Which is well deserved.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they didn't bring these back.
What's his name? He was Tugboat.
Yeah, Typhoon, Fred Ottman.
What's his name?
Fred Ottman?
Yes, Fred Ottman. And definitely IRS there. Who's Bray Wyatt's father? Mike Rotundo is in real life Bray Wyatt's father. He should be in there, and Bray should be in there now.
Yep, for sure. I'm surprised WWE didn't bring you back to induct the Bushwhackers or be part of.
Yeah, I was their man. They were there for so many years, and I was only their manager for a year. So even though there's a group of fans by age that equate me with the Bushwhackers, they've had other managers, they've had other rivalries with other wrestlers and stuff. I was just there a year.
Yeah. And bringing up Bray Wyatt, what was your reaction to when they announced that his passing?
It was I think I posted on Facebook. They're all tough, but this is the toughest one yet. Such a good kid. Such a good kid. Yeah, heartbroken, devastated. Probably hit me harder than anyone else is passing in the WWE. Sherry hurt a lot. Macho Man, that hurt. But just from the the pure sadness of it, nothing. I have not felt a death in in professional wrestling like I felt his. You went away there for. Did you hear
we
the
both
answer?
went. Yep, I heard that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and it was like so random too. They just
crazy and avoidable from what I hear. Butch, the Bushwhacker Butch, that was another really tough one. We were supposed to get together. I hadn't seen him in 25. We were going to do a signing together. I was supposed to do
I think
I was supposed to do a signing with the Genius, Leap and Lanny Poffo, because we were it was going to be our first signing together, and he died 3 days before the signing. So
I seen that.
A couple of these have been tough, but I think Bray was probably the toughest.
Yeah. What was talking about the Bushwhackers? When is the last time you got to reunite with them?
I've seen Luke a couple of times. We did a signing. I think it was last March, and we did another sign. I've seen him twice in the last 2 years. Oh, and I saw him. Yeah, I saw him in Queens at the Big Show about 5 years ago. And we have the same rep for these shows, so we know what each other is doing. Yeah, it's been great. It was nice about 5 years ago picking up the relationship again with him. And we'd always talk about Butch. Yeah, Butch is not doing so good, but he'll be back. You'll see him. He'll be back. And he died at WrestleMania.
That was at WrestleMania?
It was the day before WrestleMania. It was the first time he was in this country. He lives in New Zealand. First time he was in this country in like over 20 years. And I was going to see him later that summer. So yeah, tough. These guys, a lot of them die young, man.
For sure. What are 4 words you would describe your wrestling persona?
Pathetic. Homeless. Hypochondriac. Fanatical wrestling fan.
Mm.
But that's more
Yeah.
than, yeah. But yeah, that was my persona.
Yeah. And obviously nerd.
Yeah. Oh, pathetic. Yeah. Yeah, nerd. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. What are three things that annoy you the most in wrestling?
Um, bad jokes, bad casting, um, amateurish. Certain aspects, you guys could have done better than that. Or I don't mean the actual matches, or um, but just not everybody is Hulk Hogan or Kurt Angle, or and the producers not knowing what to leave in, what to cut out. It's there. Some things that I've seen since I'm not there in the business anymore have just been like, wow, that was really bad. That wasn't funny. It wasn't. Um, I would say just bad television. Um, just not getting the shots they needed to make that an interesting bit or an interesting match or an interesting promo. A lot of that. A lot of people out of their league, so to speak, in being able to. And I think that's one of the big differences between wrestling, 30 years ago versus wrestling now. The wrestling business, the TV broadcasts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are three things that you like the most about wrestling?
The brotherhood, um, the camaraderie between the wrestlers, the fan base. The fan base is
Yeah.
really pretty awesome. Um, and the opportunity they give to to people that love it to be employed by it, whether as a wrestler, a personality, a producer, a writer, whatever, the mail clerk, to work their job opportunity. That that industry hires a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Good for the economy.
What?
I said it wrestling is good for the economy.
Yeah.
Keeping people employed, and yeah, it's always going to be big. It's always going to be popular.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. If you are upset during or before a match or before you went out to manage, what do you do to help yourself calm down?
I don't. I can't remember any time where I was always at ease. I mean, I never got nervous. Jameson was a great mask to hide behind. I don't know if you know what I mean by that, but you know, even though I didn't wear a mask, I mean, he was just, I could get away with anything as Jameson. So I never got nervous. I don't remember ever being, upset about anything before I stepped out. Yeah, I don't know. I can't answer that one.
Yeah. If you could have worked anywhere in the world that you didn't get to, where would that been?
Ufa. England, Great Britain. Yes.
Yeah.
British wrestling fans are pretty awesome. Just from the few I've met, I've done a few interviews, few podcasts. Yeah, and I love British humor, and yeah, I would love. That's definitely on my bucket list, is to work either in a film or commercial or something in London or I guess anywhere in England.
Yeah. Have you ever wrestled or done anything in Wisconsin before?
No, but I'm a huge Packer fan. If
Ooh.
that big time Packer fan since Bart Starr and Vince Lombardi.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, huge Packer fan. But never. I actually did. I roadied for a year before I did the WWF. I roadied. I roadied the year before I signed with the WWF. For a British reggae band called UB40. I spent like 10 months on the road with these guys and was in. So I did a show with them in, I guess it was Madison. It was at the University of Wisconsin.
Oh, yeah,
And
Madison.
yeah, and I've driven out to a Packer game. I had to go to Lambeau for at least one game. It was while Favre was the quarterback. But love Aaron Rodgers. Love the Packers. Love Wisconsin.
Yeah. What has been the best fan art you have received in your wrestling career?
Wow. This guy who made this action figure of me. That's my favorite piece of art from, yeah. Although I've actually seen a couple that people have made. This guy actually gave me this one, but there was one I saw that was like spectacular. I said, brother, you got to make me one of those. Yeah, I've had a lot of kids send me drawings and stuff, which is kind of cool. I had a whole third grade class. I guess it was like an assignment. Send me letters with drawings on them, which was touching. That was, back when it was 30 years ago. Oh my God, those kids are like, they're in their late 30s now. Hey, listen, bud, I got to cut this short. And I got to hook you up with James.
All right, yeah.
I don't know how I'm going to do this. Can we hang up and I go wake him up? And then he could,
Yeah. Can I ask you one more question?
Yeah, go ahead. I got a couple more minutes.
Yeah. Sorry, I just have this one question that I ask everybody. So,
Go ahead.
Do you have any advice for me to become a wrestler?
To become a wrestler or a wrestling personality? To actually be a wrestler?
Yeah.
To be in the ring?
Yep.
Right? Since I'm not and have been, I would say that you have to go to one of these schools. And I would say that you got a great start in terms of your knowledge and your understanding of what makes a great wrestler which is a lot more than what you do in the ring. It's interviews. It's and you got a great personality, and you got a lot of balls doing what you're doing. I think, and I mean that in a good way, a nice way.
Yeah.
So I think you got a great start in that way, and then it's just, I would do some research on wrestling schools. There's got to be something in Wisconsin. Where in Wisconsin are you?
I'm in Peshtigo / Marinette, so I'm only 45 minutes away from Green Bay.
Huh?
And I heard that there was a wrestling school coming very soon to Green Bay.
Wow.
But I talked to my parents about, because there's one with Mr. Ken Anderson. I don't know if you know him from the WWE.
I don't.
So he's from Wisconsin, and he was in the WWE, and does a training school in Minnesota. Talked to my parents about possibly doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. But you got to keep growing. You got to, it's too early, I would say, to get into that now. Do you wrestle for your high school?
I did in 5th grade. I didn't really like it much,
Yeah.
but I was thinking about going back. I was talking about it. There's a possibility on that.
Yeah, I would say become a gym rat. Work out as often as you can. My son's a little nutty about it. I mean, he goes to the gym like every day, 7 days a week for 2.5 hours.
I seen some photos. Yeah,
he's ripped.
Yeah.
So, but I would say, yeah, you got to get yourself into a school, but just take care of your body. I mean, work out. There's a couple of components to it. It's how you look. It's the athleticism of being able to do those rolls and throws, and it's the on-camera personality, which I think you got a really good head start on. You'd be a good interview. You get it. You grew up with it, seeing it, watching it. So that part of it, just keep doing what you're doing. Really intensify the training, and keep your ears and eyes open for schools. That's how it's going to be.
Yeah.
Now, listen,
Thank you.
I really want to hook you up with my son, but I don't know if it's going to happen today. Is that a big problem?
I was going to be taking a break from interviews in December, but if there is something where
listen, it might be today, but I need, first of all, I got to get out of here. And when I come back, I'm going to wake him up and we'll reach out to you. Is that cool?
All right. Yeah. Yeah. Just message me and see what he's up to, and see if he'll be doing this.
I got you. Let me run. It was great doing this. I hope it helps you. And we'll talk again.
Yeah. Thank you for taking your time out to do this, sir.
You got it, buddy. Anytime. Talk soon.
Yep.
All right. Bye.
Bye.